Flooding is coming to downtown Olympia due to a number of climate change factors such as sea level rise, river and lake flooding, superstorms, 100-year floods, and the land sinking. It's happening sooner than you think, and it's going to affect everyone who lives and works in Thurston County. We'll learn why and how this is happening and what our local government agencies are doing to adapt to these upcoming events. The good news is that our local agencies have developed a plan to address sea level rise and associated flooding. Flooding will come from three sources: high tides, storm drain system backup, and river and lake overflow. Why do you believe in global warming?
Scientific evidence is overwhelming. I have to admit I was somewhat of an agnostic about global warming in the 1990s. The more I studied, the more I was concerned that climate change is real, human-caused, and that it is a threat to our very survival. No other explanation comes close to fitting the evidence so neatly.
Wayne, why do you care about global warming?
I have 5 grandkids. I worry about the kind of world that we are leaving behind for them and for their future grandkids.
So land subsidence is very basically the lowering of the land surface, and it can be caused by a number of different things. In this area, there's several things that interplay to cause land subsidence, and what we're sitting on here is fill, and much of this fill came from dredging of the channels either side of us.
So why do we have extreme tides in southern Puget Sound?
To answer that, let's take a look at the components that cause tides. So as the Earth rotates 24 hours a day, those tidal bulges move across the Earth's surface. Olympia, being at the end of Puget Sound, results in a much higher tidal range than other locations closer to the ocean entrance. The funneling effect as this tidal swirling going around the ocean basins essentially ends up in a funnel and ending up at the end at Olympia while we have the highest tide.
How does climate change affect river and lake flooding?
With climate changing and more frequent atmospheric rivers in the late fall and winter, we can expect somewhere around 16% higher winter stream flow in the next few decades.
I was surprised about all the things that we take for granted. Sewers, fire and EMT services, trees, roadways and bridges, things that we don't miss until they're gone.
And there are other costs of doing nothing, which is the loss of our downtown, which is a huge part of Olympia's history and a big part of our culture. It's a hub for our community. And you know, it's also the transportation between East Olympia and West Olympia would be lost. There'd be a huge disconnect right in the middle of our city and very, very difficult to get around.
In terms of other structures, I think the Olympia Center on Columbia Street, which also houses the Senior Center, will be one of the first city structures that could succumb to sea level rise.
In the sea level rise report, the number of buildings in danger of flooding are 28. Now, with nuisance flooding, 170 buildings are in danger of flooding with 6 inches of sea level rise. 610 buildings with 12 inches of sea level rise by 2030. That's less than 9 years away. 970 buildings will flood at 68 inches.
two different threats that come at the treatment plant from sea level rise. One is the flooding of the combined sewer system in downtown Olympia. The other is overland flooding from being near the coastline. That flooding would inundate the treatment plant and affect our ability to treat wastewater. So as that water travels along the streets, makes its way into the combined sewer system, that flow makes its way to the treatment plant, which could hydraulically overwhelm the treatment plant, and we can only pump out so much water at a time. So should the treatment plant be overwhelmed by floodwaters, wastewater would back up inside the city of Olympia's sewer system. When that happens, in the combined sewer system particularly, the mix of stormwater and wastewater could spill out onto the streets, creating a public health hazard for the community. LOT stands for Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, and Thurston County. We provide wastewater management services to the area of the north urban area of Thurston County. Approximately 116,000 residents are served by the LOT Clean Water Alliance.
How does Capitol Lake flood?
Capitol Lake typically floods when there are storm scenarios and high river flows with the Deschutes River combined with high tides.
Is more flooding expected?
As sea level rises, more flooding would be expected along with more storm surges. Both of those would be factors in raising potential flooding risk.
There are a number of service facilities downtown, like the Olympia Union Gospel Mission.
So the food bank's mission is to eliminate hunger in Thurston County. So the types of folks that we serve, I think, really surprise people. We have about 8% of those that we serve are unsheltered, but beyond that, our largest number of folks that we serve are children under the age of 16. So the number of people we serve in Thurston County also surprises people. Last year, 2020, we served 69,000 people.
The priorities for adaptation are to adapt those areas that currently flood. We're most vulnerable to flooding from Capitol Lake. When high river flows combine with high tides, Capitol Lake, the elevation of water in Capitol Lake can get high and sometimes get into the park. That is where the city is most vulnerable to flooding. We envision the landscape of Heritage Park being elevated to keep those floodwaters out. This will happen probably sometime within the next 10 years.
In the near term, our approach to sea level rise has been a lot of collaboration with the City of Olympia, the Port of Olympia, and the state. So a couple things that are happening in the near term. We're coordinating with the City of Olympia and the Department of Enterprise Services for winter flooding. So inundation of the combined sewer and stormwater systems to prevent that flooding from actually coming into the sewer in the first place, which would eventually make its way down to the treatment plant. So the midterm adaptations that we're looking at that we've uncovered with our master planning effort is to increase our pumping capacity and our ability to pump water through the plant. We're looking at definitely on our new treatment facilities, being able to build those above minimum flood elevations. The collaboration with the Port of Olympia and the City of Olympia would be more of a perimeter protection of either the shoreline or the Bud Inlet treatment plant to prevent the overland flooding from rising sea levels from inundating the plant.
Well, number one, I think in my duty as the executive director of the port, I really need to make sure that I'm protecting the port as an organization and the assets that are owned by the community and operated for the community. So I really need to be looking at those risk assessments and saying within a short number of years, we can look at some inundations unless we take some action. Now, some of those actions in the short term are fairly simple. I don't want to say that they're easy, but they're fairly simple. We have some vulnerabilities from low-lying areas to the north of the peninsula that we can do some grading and perhaps do some elevation that will protect us for some years to come.
So I don't know that I would describe the collaborative as a separate agency. It is an interjurisdictional committee where we have 3 governments that are coming together to solve a problem together. And it's important that we do that because if Olympia and Lot and the port all tried to separately address the issue of sea level rise, we won't be able to prioritize projects among the 3 of us. We might find that we're competing for the same funds when we should be working together with stronger projects. And so by coming together, we make sure that we're all planning, we're all looking forward to the future, and that we're all in agreement with how to move forward with it. But the intention is that the costs will be shared equitably based on the benefits and the impacts among the jurisdictions, but also looking at not just the partners in the collaborative, but property owners and the community as a whole benefits. With the Lot treatment facility, you know, most of us send our waste down to Lot, and so we all benefit if by protecting the treatment facility. So costs we're gonna do our best to make sure that costs are equitably shared among all the partners and among the community.
Because wishing that it won't happen isn't going to keep it from happening.
Wishing that it won't happen is not an option. So planning, including the master planning that we're doing, including the sea level rise planning, it's just part of our DNA. This is what we do here at Lot.
But I want to give people hope because we do have a plan.
I'm very confident that both technically and fiscally, we can protect downtown for up to 6 feet of sea level rise.
I have heard about it. I haven't read through the plan as it is really long, but I understand it's a plan that indicates the effects of sea level rise on Olympia and indicates some responses we should have towards that, such as building structures to keep the water from flooding into downtown Olympia.
So I know that this plan is related to how we as a city and we as a county should respond to sea level rise in Olympia. And I know this plan is very elaborate, it's very collaborative, it involves a lot of work, a lot of money.
So I feel like the people of Olympia will have to kind of live with this and go through it together as a community and do their best to deal with it as best as possible. And I don't think the next 30 years will be bleak. I think it'll be a lot of hard work and a lot of community togetherness to help work through this.